city has become an open dustbin, with streets being infested with all kinds of waste stream from bottles, papers, plastics, diapers and medical waste, among others. Mountains of illegal dumps have become the norm in some cases, sitting right in the middle of the road in high-density areas, blocking traffic and water drains.
This was said by Environment Minister Mangaliso Ndlovu in a ministerial statement to the Senate on waste management in the country, saying this is the reason diseases such as cholera and typhoid continue to resurface. He said the city of Harare is incapacitated, with only 5 out of 49 refuse compactors working, resulting in uncollected refuse which finds itself to illegal waste dumps.
Minister Ndlovu said they are working with Treasury, and up to $72,000 has been set aside for the repair of 20 of the compactors at the city of Harare to improve capacity to collect waste. He said there is a need for community involvement in fighting the disaster, which tarnishes the country's image.
Another concern raised by senators involved litter at police roadblocks, which the minister said does not give a good picture, adding that they had engaged the Home Affairs Ministry for the police to have portable bins at their permanent roadblock sites.
Interesting story this. Of course, we have been talking on Morning Rush for, I don't even know, for years now about the state of the filthiness, if that's the right word, of Harare city, particularly the CBD. In fact, you know, if you can recall, I mean, I know COVID was a pandemic and it was terrible and people lost their lives, but do you remember how clean the city was during that time? So if you can equate that we can make it that clean to how we think it should be today, I think how it was clean during the COVID days is how we expect it should be today. But what we have out there is basically, I mean, those are harsh words. It's a dustbin. Imagine the minister of the government calling this capital city a dustbin.
That is very terrible. And, you know, it just goes back to what we were saying. It's about you as an individual, you playing your part. The minute you think about tossing something out the window, you know, think again. You know, don't do that. Have a plastic bin. Because I do remember when it was mandatory to have a triangle in the car, a fire extinguisher, and also a bin. In the car. It was mandatory for that. And I actually do move around with a little plastic in the car. If I need to chuck anything, I chuck it in there and then throw it. And I think if we put our minds to thinking that way, we actually can have
I think you're a poster boy of doing things right. Poster lady of doing things right, aren't you?
I mean, you just have to do the right thing.
You just have to ask you and you've got it. Yeah, I've even got a bin in my car. No, but she's so right. All of the, particularly these plastic waste containers, people eat food. I mean, guys, come on. You know,
you said it takes like 200 years for plastic to
decompose.
Yeah.
So that's something that we need to think
about.
Be
the change you want to see. That's what I always say. Be the change you want to see.
Okay.
Moving on, meanwhile, issues of service delivery continue to be a topical issue in the city, with town clerks saying it is one of the issues that was flagged by the Auditor General.
Addressing the city's audit committee, Engineer Chisango said service delivery is their mandate, which should be prioritized, and calling for an end to corrupt activities in the city.
Water, sanitation and hygiene was also flagged by the Auditor General. This is where you see that they don't just look at the finances, but they also look at the wider mandate. Why we exist. We need to be providing the service. We need to have strategies to be able to provide the service that we're supposed to provide. So the Auditor General here recommended that we should implement programs that improve service delivery. Cloud and core to all of us that there is need to uphold integrity and also to ensure that we've got zero corruption in all our systems.
Service delivery, service delivery, service delivery. I'm not sure how often we can keep that call going, because the fact is that in most urban cities, service delivery is lacking. I'm not saying it's completely non-existent, but it is lacking. And here we're not just talking about garbage. We're talking about all the service delivery that any council should give its residents. You know, I mean, you just go around the capital. There's lights are not working. The potholes in the roads. You forget about the garbage not being collected. Water. I live in an area that hasn't had water for almost 11 to 12 years. Forget about Mavuku, which hasn't had for, I can't even count how many, 15, 20 years. I mean, this is not acceptable.
Or in some areas, Andy, you get a water leak and it's seeping into the roads and just nothing's being done about that, you know. So,
and I don't know,
response-
and honestly, I don't know how often we can talk about it. And so I think it's really down to the city fathers in all of these cities to come up with a plan to make sure that service delivery is prioritized.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point telling us and going to nice conferences and saying it. We need to see it on the ground.
You're very right, Andy. And you know, you're right. I like what you said. There's no point in talking about these things.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be going through these things because that brings on a lot of other diseases, cholera, typhoid, everything that's saying, clean up the cities then. If there's litter, we're talking about the litter. If there's litter, have the trucks in place for that. I know in my area, there's a garbage guy that comes, I think, once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So you are mounting up garbage in your home as well, and you're thinking, what should I do? Should I burn it? Then you burn it, and then that affects the environment. So it's a cycle. It's a deadly cycle that we really should not be talking about.